Hi, I'm Imara Jones reporting with FSTV here from Netroots Nation in Philadelphia. And this gathering of activists, both online and offline, is figuring out how best to position and progressive issues next year in advance of the 2020 election. And so that's why we are thrilled to be able to talk to someone who can give us a lot of insight into that. Lyzz Schwegler, who is the Director of Communications and a co-founder of Sister Districts. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
So Sister District has over 40,000 volunteers from mostly deep blue districts across the country who have volunteered to take the political energy that's not needed in the places where they live and work and put that into others. How have you found that to work out? I mean, is it an effective model? It seems strange to have people who aren't from somewhere work in a sister district.
Right, yeah, no, it's a great question. So myself and my four co-founders are all based originally in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is obviously very heavily blue. It's a Pelosi country. And we realized after the Trump election that all of the energy, both in terms of dollars and in terms of volunteer energy that was based in California really didn't do any good. We can't get more Democrats elected in California. Arguably, we could maybe go more progressive, but the fact of the matter is that we're still getting screwed over by the rest of, by folks in other parts of the country that may be in very heavily gerrymandered states. There may be a lot of voter suppression. There's reasons that people, that good Democrats and good progressives in purple districts and purple states are still fighting an uphill battle. So we do have about 45,000 volunteers all across the country, and so far we're seeing incredible energy. We work entirely in state legislature races, so there are general elections going on this year. We have Mississippi, Louisiana, and Virginia, and we're seeing intense enthusiasm all across the board still for election volunteering in 2019.
How do you choose candidates to back? Do you choose candidates in primaries or once they've won?
Great question. Yeah, so we don't get involved pre-primary if it's a primary with a challenge. We believe that the local population should choose the Democrat that's best fit for them. Sometimes that's a more progressive candidate, sometimes that's a slightly more centrist candidate. We do look for states that we can flip or hold a chamber, ideally. So this year in Virginia, we're only 2 seats away in both the lower chamber and the upper chamber from flipping. Virginia is actually a very blue state. It was heavily gerrymandered, so but new maps are helping Democrats a lot this year. So and then we're also working, as I mentioned, in Louisiana and Mississippi, which are certainly not purple areas. They're pretty red, but there's a lot of voter suppression. There's a lot of gerrymandering, and there are good Democrats there that need our help. So so we're trying to make some blue inroads. We don't want to forget the South in our enthusiasm for flipping purple areas.
How is the focus on state legislatures going? I mean, that's a strategic choice.
Yes.
Right? And so what is it paying dividends?
Absolutely, yeah. So you may or may not know, or your listeners may or may not know, that the Democrats actually lost 1,000 state leg seats under Obama. God bless them, but we lost some ground there. So we're fighting an uphill battle. The Republicans have been incredibly aggressive at winning state legislatures and even farther down ballot. So people are starting to get the message with the census being in the news so much lately. People are starting to get the message that redistricting is happening in 2021 post-census, and we've seen an incredible amount of support at the state ledge level. We've already managed to flip a few chambers in the last 3 years, which is really, really heartening. And you see a lot of great legislation coming out of places like Michigan and Washington State that are now leaning more Democrat, or in Washington's case, or it's actually a Democratic trifecta, so we control all 3 branches of government, which does make a huge impact in the lives of everyday citizens.
Right. How many seats have we gotten back, or let me rephrase that. How many seats have Democrats gotten back from the lost 1,000 from President Obama?
Yeah, so last year was a pretty big banner year for us in the midterms. There's a lot of enthusiasm across the board. Of course, midterms are a little bit better in terms of enthusiasm than an off year. And we won, I think, about 363, 365. So slowly clawing our way back, but we still have a really long way to go. And State Ledge is a really great place to put your effort if you're interested in volunteering, because you can really make a huge difference. So, $50 at the presidential level maybe doesn't make quite as much of a difference, but at the state level it really does.
And from a strategic standpoint, I don't think many people realize that right after 2016, I think the Republicans were essentially only one state legislature house, it's not even the entire house, I can't remember which state, from actually having a 2/3 majority, which would have allowed them to rewrite the Constitution.
Yes, that's right.
So
yeah.
I don't think that people realize that that was part of the plan.
Yeah, it's absolutely part of the plan. I mean, the Republicans have been, I have to hand it to them, they've been incredibly strategic at taking back state legislatures, also at passing really regressive policy at the state ledge level. So ALEC, the nefarious think tank on the right, has done an incredible job of passing stuff like the bathroom bill, like SB 1070, a lot of really bad legislation, in our opinion, bad legislation at the state ledge level. So that's also something that we're battling against.
And so, since we're at Netroots, how does technology factor into your work of engaging, your 45,000 volunteers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So we have an online to offline model. So we do almost all of our recruitment through online platforms, social media, email blasts, so forth. But we really encourage people to get out in the real world and make connections with their fellow liberals that live physically nearby them. And the reason for that is because this is hard work, and it's burnout is really high, and the more that people can have those social circles to sustain them, the better. But yeah, there's no question about it. Technology is a massive part of any kind of organizing in 2019 and beyond.
And on that point, how do you keep people not necessarily engaged, but ready for 2020? Mm-hmm. Because it's going to be an all-out election.
Huge push, yeah.
And I know many people have expressed the fact that they feel tired, they feel burnt out, that last year was a victory, but it was a hard-fought one because people gave their all. So how are you managing that for yourselves and also your volunteers in terms of getting people ready and in shape for 2020?
Yeah, so we really encourage people to sort of meet their activism where they're at. When you feel burnt out, it's okay to step away for a little while and get ready to go for the next push. And we also encourage folks, if you just have a half hour, an hour, a week, or a month, that's totally fine. If you have $10 now, if you have $100 later, it's totally fine. It's okay for your activism to sort of ebb and flow with your energy level. Don't feel like you need to go all out. Don't feel like you need to completely quit. Let it be elastic, and that's totally fine.
Right. And do you believe people will be ready for 2020?
I think so. I think that I see a lot of enthusiasm on the ground. There's certainly no stopping now. We can't let up and we can't hold back, but I'm very optimistic personally. There's a lot of energy. You can see it here at Netroots. People are excited and people certainly want to beat Trump, so that's only helping us.
Well, let's end on that note of optimism.
Great, sounds wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and as you prepare for 2020.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.